anything that could be considered a rational thought.
All right, welcome to the show today. Welcome to the Author Brand Show. I'm your host, Doug Crowe, and you're going to want to take notes today. I've got an amazing guest on. Her bio is unlike anything I've ever written or read my entire life. She is a ghostwriter, and she lives in beautiful Washington State on the sunny side of the mountains with 3 cats, 2 dogs, 5 goats, a pair of ducks, and too many chickens. I don't know if it's possible to have too many chickens. We'll talk about that. And her husband, of course. So welcome to the show today, my good friend and ghostwriter extraordinaire, Laura Fox. Laura, how are you today?
I'm good, Doug. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. So we want to get a little background on who you are and you know, the ghostwriting process for you. But before we do, I want to give people a reason to stick around. And I'm not sure what it's like in your world, but a lot of times people come to us and say, well, you know, I don't want to have someone else write my book. I've got to write it myself. And a couple of the answers we give are, well, are you a good writer? And, I've written blog posts before, but holding someone's attention span for 4 to 6 hours takes a different kind of skill set. Don't you agree?
Yes, it absolutely does.
Yeah. What's the biggest reason people should consider a ghostwriter like yourself versus writing it themselves, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, back to the question about how they want it to sound like them.
Yeah.
Like when you're writing, it doesn't sound like when somebody is talking.
Yeah.
The information has to be organized differently, you know, and you, like you said, you have to be able to hold their attention just through the
Right.
words on the page. There's no body language. There's no inflection in the voice. So it really has to be different from when someone is speaking.
Yeah, great point. We do not read the way we listen. It's a very different thing. And I do hear the chickens in the background, so that's wonderful. I love that. I love the country feel there.
I told you there's too many.
We'll get into the details and nuances of writing and capturing a person's voice and style in a minute. I want to know more about you. How'd you get involved, or how'd you get started as a ghostwriter?
Well, I've always loved writing, and I've always been kind of shy about it. When I was in my 20s, I wrote a lot of short stories, and I would send them out to zines and literary journals and things like that. And I always used various pen names. And then as the internet came along, I started finding ways to work online, and writing obviously became a convenient way to do that. I just wrote resumes for years. And then I started doing some freelance editing work. And I had someone ask me to edit her book. But what she gave me was, you know, it was just like a pile of notes that hadn't been written up yet. It reminded me of when I was in grad school. And at the end of the course, I would take all my notes and gather them in a big pile and then sit down to write the paper. And it was so much fun for me. I know not for most people, but I loved it. Yeah, so that's what it was like. You know, it was just like this pile of notes. And I said to her, well, do you want me to just write this? And she said, yeah, that would be great. So I really enjoyed, you know, doing someone else's writing and doing it anonymously. It was just a lot of fun to play around with. And it dawned on me like, oh, this is ghostwriting. So ghostwriting, it actually is a real thing, you know? And it was so much fun. I just decided to find more projects like that to do.
I love it. So it's a very interesting skill set, that's for sure, because you got to mirror someone's voice, still make it interesting, or as we discussed, more interesting than they might sound. What's the most difficult client you've had to work with? What was the biggest challenge you had?
Oh my goodness!
We'll keep it anonymous, but I want to know.
That's challenging though. Yeah, man, I could tell you some stories.
We're storytellers. Let's hear one.
I've had one client who was like, you know, she asked me to put anecdotes into her book to illustrate the point, and which is a great strategy. You definitely should do that. And so I gave it to her, and she was like, "This is too good. People are going to know I didn't write this myself. You have to."
Like, it's too good. Please make it dumb. Please dumb it down.
I mean, she was terrified that people would find out that she didn't do her own writing. But I mean, you don't build your own house. You don't sew your own clothes. these are skills that not everybody has. Why should you have to do your own writing, right?
Just tell her you got a good editor. It's her ideas and stuff. It's her notes, I'm sure, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then like there are people who are just so in love with cliches.
Yeah.
And um I mean it's okay, so we can work them in a way that that kind of works, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, the same author again.
Go ahead.
She was adamant about including all these cliches in her book. And I kept telling her, what's going to make this book good is that it's you. It's got to be your
Yeah.
own thoughts. She went to a book convention and there was a similar book to hers. And
Yeah.
she was convinced that the guy had stolen her material. She was like, does he really think he came up with what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas? That was mine.
Oh my. Oh
And then
my.
I
I
I
think Telly
realized
Savalas is the one who actually coined the phrase, right? Vegas, baby.
I don't
Oh
know,
my
but
gosh.
yeah, I realized something that I need to do as a ghostwriter is I really need to kind of establish my authority so that I
Sure.
can tell people,
Yep.
this is what you need to do. This is how your book, so
Yeah.
that people will take my advice instead of like just
It's a fine line, right? Because
yeah.
we have experience and opinions, and so do they. But
Mhm.
they hire us for a reason, right? They hire
Yeah.
us to write because either they don't have the time, skill, or team to pull it off.
Mhm.
And as soon as they start second guessing, small things, sure, I'll change the name, I'll restructure its content. But when it
Yeah.
comes to making the story interesting, please trust us. We know how to tell a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
gosh. What was the most interesting topic or client you got a chance to work with?
Um well, let's see. I don't want to give too much away about the projects.
Because it's a ghost. It's
There's
okay. You tell me in
there's a book.
general terms what type of
Okay.
topic it was, whatnot's fine.
There's a book about crying.
I'm sorry about what?
Crying.
Crying?
Mhm.
Like boohoo? Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
What was it about that was interesting to you? What made it like fascinating?
Well, it's um I'm an anthropologist actually.
Hmm.
So so it was interesting to look at it as an anthropologist and think about like how how it's different in various cultures. How people
Right.
have different attitudes about crying, crying in public, crying in private,
Sure.
and then like the whole health benefits associated with crying.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there's actually been like a little fad in Japan where people would cry for health. Like they would go into crying rooms and watch sad movies and make themselves cry as a way to relieve stress.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Was there any parts of the book that made you cry or
No,
the reader cry?
I
Just,
hope so, but I don't know. I guess I don't cry that easily.
you're a stoic. How many chickens do you have there to keep you solid in the entrenched in the farm? That's probably what made you stoic, huh?
Yeah, well, they're bantams, so they're really good at hiding their eggs, and they are
Ah,
extremely maternal. I've had a chicken raise ducks. So their population has kind of exploded this year because they hid a whole bunch of eggs, and now, like, every time I count, there's at least 12 roosters.
oh my gosh.
So I've been giving them away.
Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah.
if I was closer by, we'd take a couple off your hands, but I guess
Yeah.
why a
Been
little far.
making a lot of soup.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so
Mhm.
back to books. I just like the chicken thing. It's just you like dogs and cats and chickens. All
Mhm.
right, so we've got crying. That's a very interesting topic. When you work with a client, can you describe your process, how you gather the information, or do you do interviews, or is it all written? How do you work as a ghostwriter?
Yeah, a lot of the clients that I work with are coaches,
Mhm.
teachers, people that are practicing something. And so they've got
Yeah.
a lot of course material.
Mhm.
They've got videos, podcasts, and so they give me all this material to
Mhm.
turn into a book for them. But
Right.
it really does take more than that. It takes interviews. because when you're doing courses and things like that, there's a focus on like fly. There's a focus on really how to do something. It's practical knowledge that you put into a course. And then when you're writing a book, you have the opportunity to go a lot deeper and go into your whole philosophy and background. You can actually change somebody's perspective in a book. Whereas in an online course, you don't really have room to do that.
Right.
So it really does go beyond those materials. It'd be nice if I could just take all that material and turn it into a book, and it would be hands-on or hands-off for the author, but they've got to be involved. So I always ask for interviews at least once a week. An interview per chapter is like an hour and a half.
Yeah, same here. Okay. When it comes to getting people to understand the role of a ghostwriter and the benefits of it, obviously there's different flavors and all this stuff. We've been doing it for a number of years, and so have you. Is there a certain type of I don't know, personality or filter you like to work with the best? What's the easiest type of person to work with? Not the content, but their personality, or
Yeah, I like working with people who have a positive outlook.
Yeah.
People who are creative, because it's a collaboration and it's really fun to get creative with someone else.
Yep. Yeah. It's positive and creative. That's good. What about I'm loading this up here now. What about, is there a type of person or industry you don't like working with?
I don't know. I'm really focused on working with people who have like a message that they want to share. So I like working in the spiritual genres and health. I've worked with a couple of functional medicine doctors.
Nice.
And those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, people are doing some kind of service. They have some kind of perspective that's pretty unique.
Right. Yeah, we're very aligned with that way. My coach was listening to some of my sales calls with clients, and he listened to two of them. He goes, this one you talked to, you were excited, enthused. It seemed to go really well, and you both had a good time. I listened to your energy there. The second call, you were kind of cold or disinterested in this person. What happened with that one? I said, oh, that guy. Yeah, it was just about himself. He just talked about himself for a whole hour. It was very ego-based. And he said, why'd you bother talking to him? Well, people call me, want to do a book. I want to talk to them. Because stop talking to people you don't want to work with. And I said, Wes, that's like 30% of our calls are like that. That's like a lot of business I'll be turning away. He says, you're not getting the business anyway. Just stop talking to them. So I cut my call volume down by 30%, right? And I'm like only talking to people, like you say, they have something to give back to the world, make it a better place, something that's, of value. Calls dropped by 30%. Business revenue went up 300% that year.
Nice.
Because we just focused on authors who are going to make a difference in the world, period.
Yeah.
Not even political. It's like whatever, I don't care about your spectrum. All I want to know is you're going to write something which is going to serve humanity, whether it's a community or the world. I don't care, but do something. And a lot of them are business books, but these people are like our clients, they're business leaders that want to give back. They've made their money. They're happy. They want to leave a legacy. They want to do something interesting to further their cause, whatnot. That's turns us on, makes it more interesting as ghostwriters to write about something we know that's going to, make an impact, I guess. It gets out there.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time that you looked at a project and turned it down like I have, or you just take them as they come, or?
Definitely in the early days, there are some that I should have turned down.
We all have that. That's okay. We're starting out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had the nerve to say, well, no, actually I did. I turned one down, and it was one where it was very clear that the author didn't have time to work with me on their book, and they weren't going to make the time.
Yeah.
And so, I turned that down.
Right. That's smart. We've been talking more because I've been, we did a bunch of books in the health space years ago, and the higher we went up the food chain and got people with more success, the harder it seemed to get in medical and the easier it got in like tech and business leadership. They're really easy to work with, these guys who are mega successful. But in the health space, I've had a bunch of physicians start their books and then they just quit, or they don't, they think they know everything, and it's like, functional medicine a little different, but the actual straight up, surgeons and those guys, I've not had good alignment with them on getting it done, because we have to, obviously it's their content, but we want to make sure it reads well.
Yeah.
And one guy asked me once, Laura, he said, "Do you have any medical writers, medical ghostwriters?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a couple, but I'm not gonna use them for your book." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because you'll bore them to death. It's not an academic book. We don't do those. I can turn you on to somebody who does technical books, but boring. I want books that have good stories in there and whatnot."
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're a physician listening to this, call Laura. Don't call me.
Well, no, it really has to be focused on the reader. You got to know who your reader is, and how much technical information they want to wade through. Like sometimes with doctors, they have all this stuff that they studied and they want to put it in their book. And it's like, who are you really writing this for? Your professors aren't going to read it.
That's right.
Your reader doesn't care.
I had a therapist once who had a lot of degrees. His initials are longer than his name. And he's a very learned man, right? Very smart, multiple degree. And I'm talking about doing his book. I said, "Well, keep in mind, we're going to write this for the 4th grade level." He's like, "What? My peers will think I'm an idiot." I said, "Are you writing it for them or to get new clients?" "Well, for new clients, but they're still going to read it." I'm like, "All right, for you, I'll upgrade to the 5th grade level." That's it. It was kind of a joke, but yeah, if you get too technical, you might sound smart, but you're turning people off who, just want to be entertained, informed, and get some benefit out of your book, right?
The people that the book is actually for. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your typical timeline? How long does it take you to do this if someone submitted all the materials and doing a weekly interview with you? What's a typical turnaround on writing a book for somebody?
Ideally, it's a chapter per week to go through the first draft. And then once that's complete, then we have some time where we go over and make changes and move things around and do all that stuff. Just getting like the first draft complete I like to go a chapter a week, and it seems like that's the pace that most of my clients can keep up with.
So you interview on a Monday and then deliver it the following Monday. Here's your first chapter. Let's do another interview, or how's the process work for you?
Usually something like interview on Monday. I might give it to them on Thursday or Friday. They read it over the weekend, and then we have the next interview on Monday.
Nice. So you get the whole book done in 7-8 weeks, something like that, or?
Yeah, if it's an 8-chapter book.
Yeah. Okay. And do you do like formatting and layout and all that stuff as well, or just get the manuscript and let them handle the technical side?
I do not do all that stuff.
Okay.
But a lot of people ask, so I'm networking with people who do, and then I can just hand the project off to the person who does the layout and formatting and stuff.
Right. So you just focus on
copy editing.
I love that.
Yeah.
How many clients do you typically take on a year? Is it just one at a time when you're focused, or you do multiple at the same time, or?
I can do 2 at a time usually, and it's because people take breaks. Life happens, things come up, and without notice, and then I'm, without a project. So I like to keep a couple going at a time.
Yeah, we have a couple staff writers, and our lead guy has got like 5 books right now. I'm like, you need to prioritize those every single day is what he's working on. But it keeps his brain sharp. If you ever get like after several weeks, you're like your energy drops because you're kind of tired of the topic, or not?
I find that if my energy drops, I'm getting tired of the topic. It's because we've lost focus on the reader. It's so important to think about the person who's going to receive this and how they're, I'm always thinking about the reader, what questions are coming up in their mind, what are they going to want to know, what do they need to know, and if I lose sight of that, then what's the point?
Right. Yeah. Right. It gets dull. What's the do you have like a typical I don't know, like a checklist or a process you do when you're talking or actually interviewing your clients before they hire you? Like, here's some 7 things to look for or a process.
Gosh, that's a good idea. I haven't really like listed it out.
I'll
I
give you
kind
one of
of
mine.
go by the
I got 2
feels
of them.
like,
Yeah.
does this project excite me? Is the person somebody that I feel really good about working with?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they seem like they have the time and the motivation to carry it through?
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a few people just abruptly stop and never come back. I'm like, well, I'm still here going to finish up, but people sometimes quit things, I guess.
That hasn't really happened to me too
Oh,
much. Yeah.
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It goes back to my doctor thing. Maybe that's why I sent them to you. The two recent ones I thought of were, they just flaked out.
Oh.
Yeah, interesting stuff. How do people get a hold of you if they want to hire a ghostwriter? Laura, what's your contact? How do they get a hold of you?
Well, my website is gurusghost.com.
Mm-hmm. Guru Ghost. GURUGHOST.com. Is that right?
Oh, it's Gurus. The Gurus Ghost, but
Gurus.
without,
It's right here in
gurusghost.com.
the chat below, folks. Just don't listen to what I'm saying. I've got it right here below. I got a show notes and her contact information there. So please reach out to Laura or myself. Either of us can help you do your book. But today it's Laura's turn to shine. So we want to showcase her. So your favorite book was a crying book. Did you have one that we won't talk about names, but you have one that you're like not happy with that you still had to finish up anyway?
Well, there was one that was like, it was really rushed.
Yeah.
And the author, he had a launch date, and he had his promotions all lined up, so he could not miss the launch date. But he didn't contact me until like 4 weeks before that date.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Like at that time, you should be sending it to the editor. Well,
Yeah.
he completely skipped any kind of editing because
Edit,
there was
proof, layout, design. There's a bunch of functions got to happen there.
none of that happened. He just uploaded it on Amazon. So, I mean, we were both frantically working. Like I started the first chapter, he started the last chapter, and we worked our way toward the middle. And and he got the Amazon bestseller status because he did the whole
Right.
but
Category
it
and
could have been so much better if we'd taken the time.
that's a good takeaway to finish up this conversation today, Laura. I'm glad you brought that up because speed is the enemy of quality when it comes to writing. It's certainly
Absolutely.
you can certainly keep some kind of pace, which you obviously have a great pace with your weekly program. But if people take breaks, they take time off. Getting that momentum back is important. But man, if you pushing creativity with speed, it's rarely going to turn out better when it comes to a book. I know some people work better under pressure, but all the writers I know it's not going to go better because you're in a hurry. So,
The creative process takes time,
right.
and it also takes downtime.
Yeah. I sometimes my wife and I are just sitting around and taking a walk or thinking, but we're working. We're thinking, oh, I could weave that story and maybe do a time travel thing and start with the big and move things around a little bit. There are things you can do in the creative process, which you're right, not always in front of the computer. Sometimes you're in a shower or taking a walk, right? It comes to you.
There's something about physical activity, I think, because there have been so many times when I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to bring all this together. I'll go take a walk. And then when I come back from my walk, sit down on the computer, it just, there it is.
Flows. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, it's great to have you on the show today. Really appreciate it. Folks, check her out. She's got a great system there, and she's a wonderful writer. And Laura, appreciate having on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Doug.
You bet. And that wraps up another episode of the Author Your Brand Show. You're going to want to take notes. If you didn't take notes, they're right below here. Just click, sign up, get your notes, contact Laura, and have a great day. Hope we see you next time. Thanks.